Women stay for financial reasons. The other side of that is sometimes you really love a person despite the wrong that they might do, even if they're abusive. There's kind of like this Stockholm syndrome thing that goes on where the good is so good that you're willing to overlook the bad. And it's a toxic cycle, but that is essentially why another reason why people stay in these relationships.
Welcome to Cocktails and Gossip, the podcast where we drink cocktails, but you better believe we're going to spill the tea. We chat reality TV, celebrity blinds, and the hottest tea from BravoandCocktails.com. And as always, it's all alleged and just for fun. We do not verify our blinds. I'm B.
And I'm Amanda. Let's get into this week's tea.
What's up, cocktailers?
Hey, cocktailers.
So today we're very excited because my friend Michelle Dempsey Multack is with us. Did I say your married name right, Michelle?
You sure did.
Michelle is a fellow New York girl, although she currently lives in South Florida. She can be found on Instagram at the Michelle Dempsey. Michelle is a divorce and co-parenting coach and trains divorce professionals to help their clients conquer divorce by taking the co-parenting high road. Michelle is also a best-selling author. Her book, Moms Moving On, is a must-read for all moms going through a divorce. You can also hear her podcast at Moms Moving On, basically wherever you listen to your podcasts, right? Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is like my favorite topic ever, aside from the one I focus on all day, every day.
Well, we are so excited to have you. And funny enough, these topics do tend to kind of overlap. So we are going to pull you in for some of your expert opinions on some Bravo celebrity situations. So we thought we might start with that. There's a lot of another day, another divorce, I feel like, when it comes to Bravo. A couple of splits that kind of come to mind that have been in the news this week are the Hochsteins. So Lisa and Lenny in Miami. Their fellow South Florida girl. She's also in Miami. So they have two young kids. I want to say maybe their oldest is maybe 6. The plastic surgeon husband, Lenny, very, very publicly cheated. A lot of this came to light as we were watching the last season of Miami. Then we also have Corey and Kim from Real Housewives of Atlanta. 11 years of marriage, 4 new kids, he adopted her 2 oldest girls. They are also going through a very contentious split, lots of financial issues there. So my question for you, and this is going to be a slam dunk, I'm going to guess. But
okay. So
both Kim and Croy and the Hochsteins are still living with each other in their marital homes, despite the fact that they are going through these nasty divorces. What do you think about the fact that they're both still living in the homes together? Is there any way that could end well?
I mean, okay, so let's first start by saying that these aren't regular homes. The Hochstein home here in Miami is it's like 7 of like normal homes put together. So in that respect, the space issue is great, but that's not real life. And for most people who do split and can't physically separate yet, it's a nightmare to be in the same house with the person. If you are high conflict, if there is litigation going on, for at least what we've seen on the show and heard from what Lisa shares, Lenny was bringing the girl into the house. So I do not think this is a good situation. There is a lot of benefits to this. It's called bird nesting. And in the divorce world, it's really, really good for the kids when the kids are adjusting to this new world of their parents being divorced. And what that usually looks like when you're not a Hochstein or, a celebrity, one parent will be in the house for a week with the kids and then leave. And then the other parent will come in for a week. And when this is done like normally in a healthy way, it's really, really great for the kids up until a certain point. But I don't know that with all that's going on with Lisa and Lenny, this is the best choice. It seems to me that Lisa doesn't want it this way. He just refuses to go anywhere, and he's trying to kick her out of the house.
And he also has another condo. So I feel like he has full access to the home, but I don't believe he sleeps there every night.
No, I think he comes and goes as he pleases. And honestly, I mean, from what it seems like, she's being tortured by this whole thing.
Have you
And,
met them? Do you know them? Do you have any people in common?
In common, yes. Yes, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, because they're all around Miami. It'd be hard, I feel, to be in South Florida and not.
Yeah,
you know?
no, and the housewives in Miami are like very accessible. Miami's not a big place. Like I've seen Alexia a million times. She's really sweet. She always stops to talk. Nicole from Miami is great. She came to one of my book signings last year. She's so sweet. She brought Grace in, and we connected also about like divorce and all of that. But Lisa, no, I see so many people comment on her Instagram, like, you need to follow Michelle, you need to call Michelle. And I'm sure she knows of me and who I am. But, some people aren't always ready for that help. And I think she's in a place where she's been so gaslit and she doesn't know who to trust. Right. So, I'm not surprised that like there hasn't been like an introduction. I feel terrible for her, truly. I mean, he's got a reputation around here anyway from way before this split. And he's not well liked. They would throw these huge parties all the time. And he didn't conduct himself like the husband of somebody.
And we saw that, I think, at the Miami reunion this year. I mean, and Lisa sort of said, like, the way I understood it was she kind of was like, I never expected him to leave me. Like, I guess she was willing to ignore a lot of it.
Yes. I think for her, it was like, this is who he is. I'm going to put up with it. And she had resigned herself to that lifestyle. So for him to like turn around and leave was definitely very shocking for her. A lot of women are in situations like that.
I was just going to ask you that. That topic has come up a lot. The women who seem to look the other way, they kind of know their husband strays. So what is some of the psychology? Is it about safety for these women?
Well, I think it's different in a lot of scenarios, but what I see is for financial reasons, women will look the other way. They know that a divorce will drastically change their lifestyle. Maybe they haven't worked in a long time, or maybe they don't want their lifestyle to change. And there's frankly nothing wrong with that. Everybody has a different level of tolerance, I think, for what their spouse can and can't do. But more and more that I'm in this role as a divorce and co-parenting coach, people come to me with all their shit confidentially. And I'm finding out about so many people in open marriages and swinging with other couples. And I'm like, oh my God, but this is, what some people do. Inevitably, the couples that do this, I see over time, they split up. But I think if you're dealing with a husband who, he has a lot of money, you're living a cushy life and he's doing his own thing on business trips or whatever, and it, but you know that a divorce, you signed a prenup and then you'd be left with nothing. I see why many people look the other way. It's sad and it's a sad way to live, but some people really do care about their appearances.
And right, the appearances, and some people, I guess, say to themselves, like, well, like, so long as, like you said, on a business trip. So the assumption is the public doesn't know. I think with a lot of these, what we've seen, it's a couple things in the housewives world. Number one, when it becomes public, it becomes a problem. I know you're not a Vanderpump Rules gal, but I think there was some extent of that with Tom and Ariana. Not that she knew it was as regular as it was, but that when he had cheated, it wasn't really public. It wasn't really confirmed. It wasn't a girl on the cast. So she was willing to forgive him and stay with him. And then the other thing, which is like the Camille Grammer effect, I think a lot of these women, the husbands put them on the show to kind of give them,
distract.
Yes, or even give them the income, Michelle. So then when they're going for the divorce, maybe they don't have to give him as much money.
I definitely saw that with Camille Grammer. That's so funny that you say that. And that was fucked up too. But, it sucks. It sucks. But I think Camille would have stayed with him. I think Lisa would stay with Lenny. I mean, she says all the time that she still loves him. I think she'd really look past it. And I do think, so the other side of that, so women stay for financial reasons. The other side of that is sometimes you really love a person despite the wrong that they might do, even if they're abusive. There's kind of like this Stockholm syndrome thing that goes on where the good is so good that you're willing to overlook the bad. And it's a toxic cycle, but that is essentially why another reason why people stay in these relationships.
It makes sense.
I know that you're not.
Please, I have to apologize to you and your listeners and all of my friends who cannot fucking believe that I am not a VPR person, but like it started and for whatever reason, I didn't get into it. And then with each passing season, I'm like, oh God, now I'm too far gone. And now, I mean, everybody's reaching out to me about Scandival. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm sorry. I let everybody down.
There is an Instagram going around that's like, here are the episodes you need to watch to catch up.
Yes.
So
Then I
we
will
should
do
find
that.
that and send it to you. So
Please.
because it's like only like 12 versus,
Okay.
you know, however many seasons. But
Fine.
I know you know kind of the gist, right? And it
Yeah.
kind of doesn't matter. So Tom Sandoval he's one of the two Toms on the show. He's very big on the spotlight. He's been in multiple bands, including
He
his
looks like a
current
ski
cover
bots
band
with, he's
with
not,
the mustache.
yeah, he looks wormy. I don't understand
I was
the
just
appeal.
gonna say, might you call him a worm with a mustache?
Oh.
So he's got his name, like he's on multiple bars, very much all about he's obviously on a reality TV show. Do you think it's possible for somebody who craves the spotlight to that extent to be in a healthy, normal relationship with another person?
No, I don't. I mean, there's a reason why you see all these crazy celebrity dramas, right? And like none of these things work out because when somebody is more attached to the validation they get from the external, this is essentially why people cheat, right? Like they want that external validation. They're bored of the regular validation they get from their relationship. They're never going to be able to put that person's emotions ahead of that high of being famous or the likes or the money from the next show they're going to do. Listen, could it happen? Sure. Do we see these random celebrities that have been in relationships forever? Yes, but we also don't know what goes on behind closed doors. So in this type of situation in today's day and age with like Insta fame and people becoming reality celebrities overnight, I think no. I mean, not at least not from my perspective. And
Talking about this makes me wonder how social media is going to, right? Because we're talking about celebrities and celebrities are a small portion of the population. And now we have Instagram, which has given everyday people access to followers and attention on a smaller scale, sometimes on a bigger scale. Some of these TikTokers blow up and become famous, right? And you kind of wonder how that will affect them and their relationships.
And never mind that, they're children. Like,
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, you look at all of these reality TV stars and you're like, oh my God, their kids are watching, some of them, the kids are great and they seem to have like a healthy relationship with them and with what they put out online. But, this desire for fame kind of overrides what's going on underneath, the roof of your house. And people forget that like children are going to grow up and be able to access social media, or they're going to go to school and be teased because of what their parent puts out online and on these reality shows. And I don't know, I know in the Sandoval situation, there's no kids, but that's something that is always top of mind for me when I'm doing my thing on social media or in interviews or whatever.
Agreed. And, actually, it's funny that you brought up the kids because I wanted to talk to you about Jersey. So, I know you're a Jersey fan.
The
Teresa
biggest.
and Joe Giudice. Giudice. Is that how I say it, B?
Giudice, yes.
Giudice. Okay. They went, we know they went through it on screen, right? They both went to jail. Joe got deported. Then they got divorced. Despite all of that, the kids all seem to be very well adjusted and seem to be very close to both parents. What do you think that Joe and Teresa did right in that case to make sure the kids had a really healthy outcome of the divorce, all that trauma that they went through as a family?
Or are they trauma bonded?
Yeah.
I think it could be both, right? Like, I think they are trauma bonded to mom because at least Gia was old enough to like kind of hold her mom's hand through it. But all that to say, she seems really well adjusted and like, a daughter I'd want on my side in hard times. But then I think, was it Adriana who just got into University of Michigan? Like that's a
Gabriella.
Gabriella, a really great freaking school to get into. Like, wow. So what I think was the benefit to them there is despite the horror of their relationship and what Joe did for Teresa to end up in jail, the strong family values that they have with Teresa's parents being involved with, I guess Melissa and Joe, when that was still a thing. And the fact that like You
and
see
Joe
on the show-
Giudice's family is very involved. His brother, his sister, his mom, his dad passed, but yeah.
We forget that extended family plays such an important role in our children's lives. And Harvard research shows that you need one stable caregiver in a child's life in order for them to thrive. Clearly, when mom was away and dad was there by himself, there were other people to step in and help. They were not neglected. And I do think it all comes back to the family values, like there's no doubt that in an Italian, family values are important and they are strong, and it's a village that comes together to raise children. So I do very much think it's that. And also, Teresa has done a really great job of supporting her daughter's relationship with Joe.
Yes.
She's sending the kids down to visit him. They're FaceTiming, they're calling, they still have love for each other. And you can see that, and the kids feel that too. That goes a long way too for the children.
Michelle, my mom always would say that to me. My mom was a school teacher, and she said that she would often tell parents, and not because she knew about the Harvard study that you quoted, but she would always say it takes one good parent to raise a healthy, successful kid.
Amen.
And I mean, look how many of us, I had two parents, but how many of, I know, Michelle, your mom was a single mom for a time, right?
Yes.
And so many successful people, friends of ours and people we know, come from single parent households. So we know that to be the case. And I can talk, and believe me, when we get into Jersey, I'm about to talk a lot of smack about Teresa. But one thing that I have said on here, and I always say, is I really admire her and Joe's relationship, Giudice. I admire how they really stuck with each other. I mean, obviously not as romantic partners, but where they just, the greater good of their four daughters, whatever, was their primary concern, the both of them. And I think that was, it's daughters. I think it's very rare that, Teresa's very strong in that she was able to do that. I think it's hard to do that when faced with so much, so publicly.
Yeah, I mean, Teresa is not the most insightful.
Makes it easier, you're saying?
Yes, I do think it makes it a little bit easier. I do think, she's just working with what she's got every day. I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said about her, but I do think that she really, 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 really cares about her children. And if we're going to get into talking about Louis, which obviously we have to.
Oh, we have to. Now,
I firmly believe that she doesn't see for a second what he is. Right. She doesn't see it. She doesn't know how to see it. She can't. She couldn't see it with Joe. That makes me sad for her. But,
But here's the difference. So we're seeing, you watched this season. We watched him explode at the finale and all of that. Do you mean to tell me, Michelle, that he hasn't shown these behaviors outside of filming the show?
I think she has, but she's also love bombed and gaslit. Whereas, somebody who is therapy savvy and who has done maybe some healing work and is really educated on what signs to look for in a toxic relationship, I don't think she's has that. And, she's got her love bubble and he gives her whatever she wants. And, all she wanted was
snapped on the girls. Is it possible he's never snapped on her daughters?
I don't think so.
Do you think it's coming? You think it's not? You think that he has snapped on them?
Of course, it's easy for him to hide that side of him on camera. But if that's who he is, and if all these ex-wives and ex-girlfriends that are coming out of the woodwork to verify that, say this, then I don't know. But I do think he has also done a good job of aligning with the girls in whatever capacity he needed to do that, whether that was telling them what they needed to hear and love bombing them also. I mean, he's turned everybody against their family, I feel no?
Listen, and we're going to get into their feud and where you stand, but clearly the Gorgas and the Giudices have had issues for years. But what we also saw at the first part of the reunion was Melissa saying, when you got out of prison and when Joe went away, your first husband, we had peace. We were hanging out. We were going out to dinners, and they showed pictures. And for that time, from then until she met Louis, and even a little bit into her relationship with Louis, things were as copacetic between the brother and sister as they ever had been, right?
Yes.
In their married adult lives. So now, clearly, you're dealing with Louis, and his mission to push Gorga out is, we have Giudice in another country. he could pepper him up. He could smile the once every 3 years he sees him, the FaceTime occasionally. And Giudice, again, you're dealing with a simple person, as you say, not that insightful, right? He thinks, hey, this guy's nice. He provides a nice home for my girls. Teresa's happy. Hey, let it go, right?
Yeah.
And so you turn Gorga against him. It helps that Joe Giudice doesn't like Gorga all that much because of their issues throughout the years, right?
Right.
You also have daughters who are used to a man in the house being gruff and rough around the edges
That's a good point.
because their dad was. So, Nono, God rest his soul, was similar. And, Gorga does have his blow-ups. I don't really see that around his kids, but certainly I'm sure they've witnessed it. So we know that Joe Giudice was very rough around the edges. We saw it, right?
Yes.
So when
and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, he was rough and he didn't do the repair that I'm sure Louis does. Like there was no yin and yang. It was just yin.
Mm.
Right. But there was a
That
true,
makes
deep,
sense.
real love there as opposed to the whole thing. Where do you land on the Jersey Gorga Giudice feud?
I got to say that this reunion, this first one, made me really sad almost. Like, I am the most sad for Joe Gorga. Do I think Teresa and Melissa have gone at each other equally? Probably. Do I think maybe Teresa instigated more? Yes. Do I think Melissa, has also pissed off Teresa 100%? But at the end of the day, what matters is Teresa and Joe's relationship. And what I see from Joe is he's emotional and he's sad and he's tried. And I think he feels like no matter what he does, it's not good enough. He's heartbroken to not have family anymore. And that makes me so sad. And I got to say, like, I'm not team Joe and Melissa because I don't like Teresa. I'm team Joe and Melissa because I just feel like they have made more of an effort and they have put themselves out there a lot. And it makes me sad that like the kids want nothing to do with them. Like, family's all you've got at the end of the day. But look, this is just my perception of what I'm watching. I could be wrong. I think there's a lot, despite, Teresa and her shit, there's a lot to admire about her too.
Yeah.
She's been to hell and back. She's turned those lemons into lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, for her children, a great example. And no doubt why her kids are, have turned out as good as they are. But when it comes to the bullshit back and forth with the Gorgas, I got to say I'm team Joe and Melissa.
I have a question.
Don't forget,
for you,
like,
actually.
Kim D. Remember Kim D. was fed that
yeah.
information about Melissa being a stripper in the beginning when she was a
Yeah.
cocktail waitress. Like, somebody was always coming for Melissa.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, okay, another question just for you. I'm very curious because we've talked about this so much, but with your expertise. So we were talking about Teresa kind of not seeing Louis and not seeing some of these behaviors and being in this love bubble. Do you think that anybody or everybody in Teresa's closest inner circle, so her daughters, her best friend, do you think any of them are seeing and questioning Louis, or is everybody in the love bubble?
Well, it sounds like Alexia and Todd may have seen it.
Oh.
Right.
Oh,
Didn't
Why?
they go? Didn't they go?
oh no,
from,
you're thinking of
Dina and her husband.
Dina and her husband.
No, but they didn't. They. Oh yeah, Alexia and her were just away. Okay, you're right. So it was
Yes.
Dina and her husband. Yeah, I think. Listen, eventually a leopard always shows its spots. You know that saying. And I think Dina and her husband are very grounded, and they just like are enjoying their lives. And Dina never really gave a shit about the limelight. I do think they are smart people, but I
I
also,
think Dina has love for Teresa and she's always there for her. But I think that Dave doesn't want any part of Louis because he thinks he's,
Yes.
shady.
yeah.
But even if you're watching, right? If we're watching Teresa in current time, I think if we're looking at it, the people she's surrounded with are her fans. You have Jennifer Aiden, who she has a picture of
can't.
her and Teresa in her bedroom.
I can't. I
What?
can't.
Yeah, stop it! I did not
I
know
swear,
that.
it's on the show.
I saw that, but to Jennifer, for Jennifer, I think poor thing, her life is so fucked up. If
Wait,
Teresa's what
let's-
she's got to hang her hat on, then
I'm
fine.
going to hold my thought to get back to that. Okay, I want you to weigh in on the Aiden marriage. I want you to weigh in on that, and then I want to
Yes.
I'll finish my thought
Let's
on the
talk about
Teresa
that.
only having fans. Go ahead.
Wait, okay, so
The
I
Aiden
think,
marriage.
I think Teresa is very, like I said, I think you want me to go to Aiden, or you want me to talk about Teresa's friends?
All
Let's go to
right.
Aiden.
Go to Aiden.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go to Aiden. Okay. Teresa, I don't hate you. If you listen to this, I think you're wonderful and you deserve the best. But okay, Jennifer, darling, what don't you understand? This man has shown you, has told you, has basically like spelled it out for you that he wants no part of being a healthy, committed partner. What the fuck? Actually, if my husband came home and sat in our pool house, which by the way, I wish I had a pool house, and sat there and did nothing while my kids were obviously struggling, I would light the pool house on fire. I'm sorry, especially after she's chosen to forgive him publicly after he humiliated her. I don't think it's nice. I think Jennifer, for all intents and purposes, for whatever it's worth, I think she's a good, kind person in her heart, dealing with a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And it's so unfair for her.
And what about when you're surrounded with family who have similar marriages and who culturally feel this is an appropriate way to be married and to live life?
But that's precisely the issue. That's
Right.
precisely the issue. You know, we're Middle Eastern, we're Turkish. This is how our men are. You take it or leave it. Well, you know what that means for the kids? Endless trauma. And that sweet daughter of theirs. Oh my God.
There's two sweet daughters.
No, but the one who
we
wants
see
Thinking
more.
of Olivia.
Yeah.
Olivia wants to be a therapist and help people's marriages. You know why? Because she's screaming for help in her own life. And I like want to have her on my podcast because she reminds me so much of myself at that age, who like just wanted to like make things feel better by fixing my parents. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
I've said
But I think Jennifer is one of those people who's not going to leave because she has this lifestyle and she doesn't want to put her tail between her legs and have to say everybody was right.
I think it's interesting, and I've said this on the pod before. I agree with your assessment of Jennifer. I think she gets down and dirty with the girls. It's a reality show. That's her job, right? But I think in her heart, we see her help her brother and her parents. She's a very generous. She loves her family. And I think we're watching in real time somebody a couple seasons ago who just realized, like, I don't have to be in a marriage like this. Or I want to try to change my marriage. And now we're watching her husband, to your point, say, this isn't changing, hon. Go buy another ring.
Yeah.
Go buy another dress.
Yeah.
You know, do some
that's
more plastic
actually-
surgery, whatever it is. But I say that to say, will she not leave? Like, will there come a
I was just
point?
going to ask that question.
Could
Is
she?
there
Because
a
we've
breaking
seen her
point for
evolve.
her?
I feel that we've watched her evolve. And what I find interesting about Teresa is I originally saw their friendship because Teresa was used to that quote unquote old school. Now, listen, I'm Italian American. There's nothing old school about it. Yes, back in the day, maybe it was, but like my mother didn't marry somebody who treated her that way, right? So I certainly would never marry somebody who treated me that way. So people do evolve and change. And does Jennifer reach a point where she says, I want better for my girls and I want my sons to know they need to treat women better?
I wonder, and sometimes I wonder if maybe she is that close to Teresa because Teresa's life is something that maybe she wants to emulate one day, you know, leave an unfulfilling or bad marriage and then find something better. But I don't know. I would
But
hope
if she's
for her
that close
she
to her,
does.
she's probably seeing, and she may be going, you know what? Grass isn't greener. They're all crazy.
You're right. But I'll tell you, with every trailer for every new season, there's always a comment that makes you think that Jennifer has had enough and she's going to leave. And then she
Yes.
never does. This is like the third season that this happens. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, what is it going to take for you? But who knows?
Or will she just be miserable like her mother and father when she's older and lives separately? Okay, now here's the other thing. We saw Danielle Cabral kind of be their soldier. Now we know what that was for. That was to secure her spot. She picked their side. Listen, if you're going to pick a side, Teresa's a pretty secure side. She's the only one who's been there since day one, and she's not going anywhere unless Louis really blows everything up, right? And Bravo has no choice. So with that said, you look at Danielle, and I mean, by anyone's estimation, she has a very happy marriage. Her husband, we've said it on here, happily plays second fiddle to her. You know, it seems to be a very pure, loving marriage. Would you agree?
Yes, and I love her. I think she was a great addition.
I agree with that.
And I also really love Rachel, but we can focus on Danielle for now.
I think that they both seem to have modern, happy partnerships in a marriage.
Yes.
I think in many ways, we've watched Joe Gorga evolve. I mean, he was sort of barbaric when he first started. And then his wife got, you know, her own career and her own jobs. And we've seen them kind of navigate and make their marriage more modern. So how does somebody like Danielle maintain friendships with people? And again, it's just a show. So maybe if it's just a show, you can do it. But with people who she clearly has such different views on marriage with. Like, you can't compare Nate to Bill and Louis.
No, and I think for her, I mean, her best bet is to kind of just like keep these relationships as part of her life, but not her whole life. You know, like she doesn't need to put a picture of any of the other housewives in her bedroom, but you know, kind of like Dolores is friends with everybody. You're here. We're going to be cool when we see each other, but I'm going to have my own life and I'm going to focus on what goes on between my four walls more than anything else, because that is what sustains me at the end of the day. And I think Danielle is smart enough to do that. I really do. I think she's great.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't think there's, you know, everybody's making this scandal about her brother. I mean, I don't think it's more than that. People get into fights for stupid shit and then they stand on ceremony because they don't want to admit they were wrong. Like, I think she's hurt, and I think, you know, I don't know. She's funny, and I love her personality, and I think
she's been trying to get on reality TV a long time, and what I hear is that she really wanted to film everything, and even before she was picked up for Jersey, the brother was like, "Stop! Like, put the cameras down. Not at my wedding. Not me on Insta." And then it just got to a point where he was like, "Enough."
Yeah, I can understand that, but anyway, I'd be friends with her in real life if that's what you're asking. Yes,
totally. I just.
And exactly what we were asking.
Okay, good.
And you bring up Rachel, and I was happy to see them bury that stupid feud because it was just obvious they were fighting.
And you know what? They're smart enough to. That's the thing.
Right.
You know, it's
if they really do it, unless they have a new stupid fight next season because they have to be soldiers for the OGs.
I don't know, but I really appreciate Rachel and being a stepmom. And I appreciate you know, I'm a stepmom. I'm divorced and remarried. I have a daughter of my own and a stepdaughter who I know what it's like to fall in love with a stepchild and to treat that child like your own. And I appreciated that so much about her and the heartbreak she started to feel when, you know, she learned that this adoption may not go through. And I really respected her for that and showing that side of her. I reached out to her actually because I want to interview her for my own podcast. I think she's great. I also think she's smart, and I don't know. I like her a lot.
What about the people who criticize her putting the adoption into her storyline, saying, why didn't she do it sooner? Why did she wait till she was on television?
Oh, I don't think she waited purposely till she was on television. I think there's probably a lot that went behind that, you know, like the, I don't
the baby mama getting arrested again and being in a halfway house again.
Right. Like, I think.
And the son expressing that he wanted that too. I think that was a big part of it. Like she talked about that with him on camera. You know, like, this is something you want, right? And he said, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think there was any. She, to me, seems like she would choose family over the show any day of the week. And I like that for her.
Yes. And she seems like she has a lovely family. Her mom, her dad, her grandma, her nonna. And we're going to see, speaking of Jaden, we see Rachel say on the next reunion that Jaden's birth mother was contacted by Louis.
Yeah. Well, God.
We also see Margaret say that her son was threatened at work by Louis. And then we see Melissa hold something up.
Yep.
So I hear what you're saying, that Teresa really doesn't see it. And we've seen her be dense and deny things, right? But how could she not see it?
I think she thinks it's love, you guys. Like, I really think in her mind, she believes, like, look how much he has my back, that he would go hire Bo Dietl.
Mm-hmm. And he's protecting me. He doesn't look unhinged at all by bringing his own security and having his own security downstairs because he's protecting me, right? Like, everyone else is dangerous except for me, Teresa.
Yeah. I have a question. You know, one of his exes talked about how he would like demand sex 3 times a day or whatever. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that he's doing that with Teresa? Yes. And do you think she thinks it's amazing? Yes, because of her pineapple juice and her this and her that and all she wanted to do. Like, so I think for her, the things that people complain about with him are the good things for her. You know what I mean?
So does that mean that it's a marriage that can last because she likes that attention?
I think it'll last. I think it might last for a while. I do.
Unless he goes to jail, because we know he's being investigated for various and sundry business dealings.
Do you think she would leave him if he went to jail? Are you fucking kidding? No. She's going to stand by her man. Listen, I do love that part of her in a way. Like, that old school commitment, that you don't find that very often. But even if he did go to jail, which I hope he doesn't, just for the fact that she's had so much instability in her life and so have the children, I don't think she would leave him.
I just always find it staggering when you look at a person like Teresa, because she's an example of a personality that's like this, who expects so much of her brother, of her sister-in-law, of her castmates, right? And then in their own, you would see her expect those things and then go home to a guy who called her the C word when she was with Giudice. And you say to yourself, I just don't understand. Like, to me, my highest demands come from the people closest, like my husband. That's who I expect to be treated the best by. Not that I put up with his mistreating me, but I expect my coworker to treat me like a queen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like backwards in some way.
A little bit, but she places obviously a very big value on her romantic relationships and has her own set of standards for that.
It's wild. It's wild. A follower actually sent this to me, and I thought it was interesting because we see at the reunion again, Teresa say, I'm your only storyline, right? To Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
So this follower, I get, you know how it is. I get the DMs and they said, Teresa likes to act like she's shown so much on the show and has so many storylines. But if you watch back seasons 3 to 5, she was lying through her teeth about all of her legal stuff, literally refusing to talk about it on camera, which led to her fallout with Jacqueline. She refused to ever be honest about her marriage with Joe. It was known that he'd been fooling around with other women for years.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this whole idea that now she's pointing at Melissa and Joe called the feds is absurd. So this follower said her sister was an intern at a law firm that started investigating the Giudices. And the reason was because she was given a $13,000 yellow diamond on television. I don't know if this is the reason, but when she was on television, Giudice gave her a $13,000 diamond ring on television in the midst of him being sued by his partner.
Yeah.
It was his partner who went it. It's just ironic that she gave, other than the table flop and the Melissa being a stripper, the only storyline she's had are things she was forced to confront, like
Right.
prison, like
Right.
deportation, like divorce. She's never had an authentic storyline that she brought to the table. And we're going to watch her try to cover up anything they try to get about Louis.
I can't wait for next week. I really can't.
Well, we do hear that he stayed calm. How in the world that's possible? Okay, I know you're not an expert on narcissistic tendencies, but I feel like you've worked with enough couples and families where this is a personality. How is it that people who show these traits of being a narcissist are able to turn it off when they need to?
Because the way people see them is the most important thing in the world to them. The last
So
thing he
why
wants to hear is
yeah.
somebody say, I told you so. You see? That's who he is. But you saw a little bit of it in this season, especially in the last couple of episodes where he like freaked out at the party
Right.
at Dolores.
Which may have been substance induced if he was drinking.
Okay,
or
whatever. But it was a little like, okay, guys.
Wild.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I think, if you do, first of all, I have to say this to anybody listening. The word narcissist is way overused as a society.
Totally.
We've
and
decided,
gaslit.
we've decided to diagnose all sorts of people without being psychiatrists. The family law industry feeds off of this, especially lawyers who tell their clients, oh, your ex sounds like a narcissist. And then it starts a whole thing. But I am not diagnosing Louis. I will say that everybody has narcissistic personality traits, and his show sometimes. And the way in which his show is like this grandiosity and this, I'm going to take care of it. I'm a peacemaker. I'm this and I'm that. And then at his core, he's not. And so I do think he's very, very concerned about how people perceive him. And he doesn't want anybody being able to say, see, look, he's this or he's that.
Right. Even though, and that's why it drives him so crazy that on the blogs and on Twitter, people are criticizing him. And that's why we're going to see next week, he allegedly hired a private investigator. He allegedly tried to hire a PR firm to do a smear campaign against Joe and Frank. And it's all going to come out.
So ridiculous. It's so sad.
Well, and we know too, as a narcissistic personality, you want to be seen and whatever. He sought Teresa out and tried to get on the show, like with a quote unquote surprise visit. We saw that in the previews as well. And of course, the math is mathing for me. It's all kind of adding up that's pretty typical for somebody who who, let's just say, has ulterior motives. And it feels like a lot of it, he's just had ulterior motives.
And somebody like Marge, who has her arsenal and who does her due diligence and who is a very smart, savvy woman, is his worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he smelled that from the beginning.
Yes, he did.
I love
He's not
Marge.
afraid of him.
Like, in other words, Dolores knows everything we know. Dolores thinks everything we think. But Dolores is like, I don't got to go to bed with him. It's her choice.
Yes. She's very smart
I think Dolores,
like that.
and I'm going to say this, and I haven't said this before. We always say, like, she plays Switzerland. I think that if there was not a show, because let's call it what it is. This show is Dolores's main source of income, only source of income. She now has another wealthy boyfriend, but without the boyfriend and without the show, she doesn't work. Her kids are adults. Frank is under no obligation to give her. And I don't, he's no longer an attorney. So I say all that to say, I don't believe that Dolores would be friends with Teresa if the show weren't around. I don't think they'd be enemies, but I don't think she would be going out with her and Louis.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong.
Yeah, she might be friends with Teresa, but not with them as a couple.
You are not wrong.
I would agree with you.
So what do you think? What do you think we see next season? And why do you think we're taking a pause for filming while they figure it out?
I think they're taking a pause because they don't know who to bring back and who not to bring back. I'd be devastated if they didn't bring back the Gorgas, although I think they would because people want to see what unfolds next. I don't know. I mean, I think the more we see somebody on camera, the more their true colors come out. That's for damn sure. And maybe we see Jen and Fuckface split up. Who knows?
So you don't like Bill?
No, I don't like Bill.
Fuckface?
I do not like him. I'm sorry, but like, he gets sloppy drunk. He's an embarrassment. Like, tell me you love your wife and show me that, and I will change my opinion.
I have to also say something, and this is sort of a side note, but him and Hochstein, they focus on female plastic surgery. A lot of the females getting plastic surgeries are moms like us. Who in their right mind wants to go to these freaking men for their mommy makeover? Riddle me that.
Oh, God.
I wouldn't let Hochstein touch me with someone else's fucking spackle.
I know. I have a friend who had a very bad experience with him and ended up not using him, but she went for a consult and she said it was like humiliating and degrading how he treated her, and she never went back.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so how does he make this money?
Listen, he has not 5 minutes from my house, a giant building, plastic surgery building that he owns.
So he owns it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He's making money.
It's the real estate more so.
Yeah, for sure.
So then we have, we haven't talked about Jen Fessler. I want to talk about her and what you think, Michelle, but also she shared, and help me because I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but she shared that didn't her husband cheat and then they got back together?
It sounds like it. It sounds like they've had
They were split for a while.
Yeah. Oh, they actually know.
Listen, the only thing to know about Jen Fessler.
That's right. That's what she said.
The only thing to know about her is that she banged my favorite on-screen man ever, Tony Soprano, as James Gandolfini. But in my mind, he was Tony Soprano in their little interlude. And I think that's the most iconic thing. But I also think she's funny. She's got great style. She's like light and, she's smart. I really, really like her
too. So you're saying if you had had the chance, Michelle, you would have smashed or passed Tony Soprano. Would have been smash
all day, every day.
Okay, but in his role as Tony Soprano or just normally?
In his role as Tony Soprano.
I like a good mob boss, but it's a no for me.
Oh, God, I don't
care. He was only like 32 when he started filming that.
Really?
I know.
Wow.
It's so sad that he's dead. I think about it all the time. He's dead a while, and his poor son, his son tried his best in that remake.
I had to turn it off. I couldn't even watch it. It was bad. This is another thing I want to say, and then I want to get your thoughts on Jackie and Evan, who, by the way, we're hearing Jackie's not going to be back even in a friend capacity next season. But who knows? Because they're on break and nobody really knows anything. When watching this season, I thought to myself, because there's no mistaking that this cast is at each other's throats. I mean, this reunion we're all going to see it. And I said, you have Fessler, who could be the new Marge. You have Fuda, who could be the new Melissa. And you got Danielle, who can be the new Teresa, except with a healthy marriage. And so, is that their plan? Like, if they can't figure this out, if they try next season and it's like enough, Louis becomes too toxic, do they just scrap and go with those girls and build around them?
I don't think Andy would ever be stupid enough to let Teresa go.
Unless he's put in a position where Louis becomes, I don't know. I mean, Jen Shah filmed right up until she went to the Slammer, so I guess so did Teresa and Joe.
I don't think
Right.
any one housewife is unfireable, though. I don't. I think after what we saw with Vicky and even Tamra, we're put on possible. I think.
And what about
everybody
Nene?
is.
I mean,
Nene,
Atlanta is
yeah.
still suffering 6 years later because Nene's gone.
For real. I stopped watching after that.
I always watch, but like I get like I
This
didn't
season's
watch this
been
week. I didn't
oof.
even watch it. What are your thoughts on Jackie and Evan?
You know, I think she did. I was sad for her when that whole thing happened because I never in a million years thought that that was going to come up for them. I do think it was very healthy for her to not be back on the show. Whether or not she was invited back, I don't know. But she's somebody who really does care about her family, and she's smart. She's very smart, and she's level-headed. And I think that, you know, not being on the show is probably better for her in terms of her healing journey with her eating disorder and the drama this stirred up for her and Evan. He's hot, man. And I'm sure him being on the show has made ladies come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And she's probably like, please stay away.
I never saw like the upside to her being on the show because she's independently wealthy. He does well. She never had a business or something that she was pushing or promoting or getting off the ground. So it was just a desire to be famous, which I never understood either because she's such like a normal, like she seems like someone I'd be friends with in real life. Like I'd go out to dinner with
Right.
her and her husband. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
But I think she realized that. I've talked to other housewives, not her, who have said, you know, if there wasn't this contract where we're stuck here for a few years, there's no way I would have continued, you know? Yeah, maybe she thought it'd be a fun opportunity. You know, I think everybody who starts it truly believes that they're not going to become the brunt of drama because they're going to try their best to stay out of it. But that's inevitably what happens.
And also, I guess it could become a thing where you don't want to feel like you didn't give enough, so they're cutting you, right? So nobody wants to not be asked back, I guess.
But I'd rather not be asked back because I was protecting myself and my family than be asked back at the sake of my family's emotional well-being.
As much, I mean, nobody
Yes.
loves reality television like I do, and I'm not a wealthy person. There isn't a dollar amount that you could give me that would, if somebody was like, B, here's $10 million, come on, Real Housewives of New Jersey, or here's your own show, I would be like, hell to the no.
Hell
There's
no.
I'd rather work my normal job for the rest of my life and live my normal lifestyle than exploit my family. I don't know. I would be too scared of what would happen. Also, my husband's hot.
I agree.
I feel like I'd be like in an Evan situation. They'd all be after him.
Yeah, same.
And it's hard enough, honestly. It's hard enough to be a parent. It's hard enough to be a kid. To add that extra layer of, you know, the weird fame and then like the mean online stuff, I just don't understand personally. I would never want to do it. I would never want to introduce anything like that would make could possibly make
I
life
don't have the
harder.
stomach for that either. Yeah, like I don't even, when someone leaves a nasty message in my comments now, I'm like, why? You know, like I could never handle like tabloid stuff and
Oh my
people hating
God.
me. Like I would die. It's not for me.
I would probably be like the crazy, like one yelling at, you know? No, it's not for me.
I'd be a Jackie. I'd try real hard to just like lay low and like get myself off the show.
Michelle, it has been amazing having you with us. You have to come back.
You know what my favorite part of this was? The fact that for a long time, B, people thought I was you and you were me.
And you happen to know what I look like.
I know who you
Yeah,
are.
know who I am.
Mhm.
Don't tell anybody.
I will.
Well,
Yeah,
I
people
know
thought-
what you both look like, and you're both gorgeous.
Oh, so are you.
Thanks.
I know. What was that? People thought, well, it's funny. We met because of a mutual friend Instagram account, Stone Cold Daddy, who's
Yes.
actually my friend in real life. And
Oh, he's so funny.
And he would send me your stuff, like, and I guess you were a Bravo fan, and that's how we met. And I always love all your quotes.
That's how we met. And it was amazing to me that like I truly love your account before I knew you. yeah, I mean, it's amazing that people would be like, I know this is you. Even my best friends who live up in New York were like, is this you? Come on, you could tell us. I was up in New York 2 summers ago and they made me prove that it wasn't.
Wait, and I wonder because I don't think, listen, we certainly have the same sort of accent. I mean, you're Jewish American, I'm Italian American. If anyone is familiar with either culture, we're basically the same, except one of us.
I'm also Sicilian.
Oh, there you go. I'm not Sicilian. I'm Napolitan, and I'm actually half Irish, but my mom was Italian. And like Jews, you are what your mother is. Wouldn't you say? And except for the fact that, Jesus is my Lord and Savior and he isn't yours, I would say Jewish and Italian are basically the same.
Yes, I agree 100%. Having been brought up in both cultures, that I never really saw much of a difference other than the food.
Right. My cousin is actually, a couple of my cousins are Jewish and Italian. And my mom.
And so is Rachel Fuda, which I love about her.
Yeah. Well, that honestly, in New York and New Jersey, that is such a common, because we're so much alike that our men back and forth. It's the same kind of deal. Totally. People always thought my mom was raised in Brooklyn and she went to public school. And at that time, most Italians went to Catholic school. So all her friends were Jewish. And then she was a school teacher and all her friends there were Jewish. So everyone just assume my mom was Jewish. But you're going to come back on, Michelle. And one of these days when I'm in my condo in South Florida, we're actually, every time I'm there, Amanda, Michelle is traveling.
Oh.
Because it's always like
Not
the
this
winter
time.
break and you're fancy and you ski. I don't know when I'm getting there this summer because I have.
I'm fancy and I'm
Yeah, where do you go? Vail or?
Vail.
Yeah.
I am
I
so
love
fancy.
Vail.
I'm just kidding.
My ass is up at Hunter Mountain.
I'm going to Sicily next week.
Stop it.
So don't come next week.
I'm not going.
Yes.
I'm still New York school. Still, my kids are still in school to end of June. You know how it is over here.
Yeah.
What part are you going?
Done. We're going to Noto and Taormina and Catania and then Rome on the way home.
Long before the White Lotus, when I was a college student studying abroad in Florence, my best friend and I took the train to Taormina, and it is my favorite city. I've been back a couple times. I took my husband. It's the most incredible. I am very
Have you
excited.
Been? No, I've been to Italy, but not Sicily. So
I'm going to tell you where to get the best arancini, and you have to go to Bam Bar for their granita, their ice.
Bam Bar.
Bam Bar is featured in The White Lotus. It's like very well known.
I know my travel agent mentioned it, but send me the rice ball details because that's
I have
important.
to Google it because I never remember the name, but I know what it looks like on the street map. All right, girl.
All
Till
right,
next
guys.
time. Thank you, cocktailers, for tuning in. And make sure to check out Michelle at The Michelle Dempsey on Instagram, her podcast, Moms Moving On, and her best-selling book, also titled Moms Moving On, which I've purchased for a few of my friends since you've written.
Oh, thank you.
We loved having you. Please come back.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Just want to ask you guys a favor, just getting kicked off. So many people have been asking us to do this podcast. So please do subscribe. And if you've subscribed, go to your podcast app and hit those 3 little dots to share with your friends, but only friends who like good tea, because the ones who don't care about tea, then forget them. And don't forget, find us on Instagram at bravoandcocktails_. And check out the website because some great tea gets put there daily that would get us kicked off of Instagram. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, guys. See you next time.